This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs White.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it.
Yeah! Forest Premier League!
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Red Side of the Trent as Forest head to the Amex for the Sunday 2:00 kickoff. And here to join me is Joe Sayers from Albion Obsessed. Joined us earlier in the season. Joe, you're going to give us your best insight despite being sandwiched in between a Europa League game, I guess. How are you, mate, first of all?
Yeah, excited for the week ahead, as you can imagine. 2 weeks ahead. We're in very strange form at the moment, Brighton. So it's going to be a tough one to predict. As you say, sandwiched in the middle of a Europa League round of 16, which is still absolutely insane for me to say that. I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought that we would be in the Europa League, but here we are. But yeah, feeling good, mate.
You've had a fun run in that competition because we played like Marseille, Ajax, was it AAK Athens as well?
Yeah.
And now Roma. Going to some nice places.
Oh, it's been a dream. I've got a lot of friends who have gone to all of the away days. And Marseille, fantastic part of France. Athens, Amsterdam, like you couldn't ask for better away days, and then to draw Roma in the next round. And obviously everyone's a little bit worried to play Roma. Everyone's thinking, the big Italian side. But do you know what? You've got to beat the best to be the best. And if we want to win this competition, this is the biggest hurdle for us to overcome now. I know there's still Liverpool left. I know there's still Premier League teams like West Ham as well. But we know we can beat them on our day. It's just coming up against these teams that, you don't really know them. They don't really know us. We struggled a little bit in our first game in the Europa League against Athens. But then from there, it's sort of been quite successful and quite an enjoyable experience, topping our group against Marseille last game of the group stage. João Pedro scoring in the 89th minute. And, these incredible memories that we were just happy to take part. But topping a group and then going to Roma and hopefully winning there would just be something dreams are made of.
I was going to ask you as well, is this arguably the biggest game in your club's history so far, would you say?
I think if you ask my generation, yes. If you ask an older generation, they will always pin our biggest game ever was that game against Hereford, where if we didn't draw that game, we would have gone out of the Football League and wouldn't have existed as a football club anymore because we didn't have a ground. National League rules stated that you had to have a ground to compete. We wouldn't have been able to ground share with Gillingham and Brighton wouldn't exist. So the fact that we scored one goal means that we get to experience all these things. So I guess you could pin it on that, but definitely looking forward, this is the biggest game that I've ever sort of had to experience. And, we've had 2 FA Cup semi-finals against both Man United and Man City. The Man United one at Wembley was huge. Probably the most horrible I've felt in a football stadium, losing on penalties to them last season. So hopefully we can look ahead to this one and feel a little bit better come the end of the how many minutes? 180 minutes worth of football we're going to play against Roma.
Oh, at least 100.
At least,
it could be more, obviously, if there's a draw at the Amex.
True.
I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but I may as well ask you now as we're talking about it. Does the game against Forest kind of get put to one side for this Europa League clash, or will I know Robert De Zerbi is an absolute serial winner, and every footballer and every football fan wants to win a game. But if you got given the option of getting through to the last 8, and you maybe drop points against Forest, whether you draw or lose, would you take that, or is that not an option?
I'll snap my hand off. If
Yeah,
you tell me that
I
we're
would as well.
go and lose 5-0 at the weekend to Forest and beat Roma and get into the quarterfinals, I'm happy.
Well, at least that might bring Palace a bit further down to the bottom for you in that little rivalry you've got going on.
Exactly. So every cloud would have a silver lining. For me, it would be a case that, if things don't go to plan on Thursday night in Rome, I think the Forest game would be a really good opportunity for us to bounce back and get a little bit of more good feeling amongst the squad. As I said before, our form has been absolutely dire of late, so up and down. So hopefully, we can use the Forest game as sort of a let's just get back to basics and try and win a football game if things don't go to plan.
It's such an interesting conversation to have, actually, because say if you go to Roma and you draw, or even like maybe lose 1-0 or something, and then Forest game is like, well, what do you do? Because I know your squad's a little bit thin already this season with so many injuries. Like Mitoma's injured, João Pedro's injured, I think. I mean, you can give me an update and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've had a lot of key players out. Can you afford to play a Forest side where we're really fighting for our lives now at the moment, unfortunately? Can you afford to get any more injuries if that happens and you need them for Thursday? It's such a hard dilemma for De Zerbi to have, depending on that result on Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had 27 major injuries this season.
It sounds about like us last season.
It's just an absolute joke. And yeah, as you say, we've got Mitoma out for the rest of the season. João Pedro, we don't know when he's coming back. I think the João Pedro thing's being kept on the down low because, as I understand it, he may well feature next week against Rome, but not in the Forest game or the first leg. So yeah, it's so difficult because obviously Solly March out injured for the season. Jack Hinchelwood, who burst onto the scene as well, is now out for the rest of the season as well. So all of these players that had incredible momentum on the back of either a really successful start to the season or on the back of last season, we've been missing, and obviously losing Moises Caicedo, losing Alexis McAllister, not replacing them in the way that we wanted to, has just gutted our midfield. And if Pascal Gross is out, or if Billy Gilmore's out suspended, like he will be against you guys at the weekend, our midfield is really shocking. I said it on our podcast that if you take Pascal Gross and Billy Gilmore out of our midfield, it's probably one of the worst midfields in the league. We just haven't got the people to come in and do what De Zerbi wants from a midfield. You'd be relying on James Milner, who is also injured. You'd be relying on Carlos Baleba, who only played 10 full competitive games before he moved to Brighton. So it's a little bit like, the club didn't quite replace as we wanted to, and just pinning it on 2 players who, Pascal Gross is absolutely amazing for what he does going forwards, but defensively a little bit suspect at times, and Billy Gilmore's growing into that ball-winning role. But as soon as you take him out, we've got nothing.
I suppose like Jacob Moda could play there, but I think he's been very hit and miss since he's come back from injury as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was out for sort of almost 2 years.
Yeah, he was.
So it's going to take him a lot of time to get back up to speed and to learn what De Zerbi wants from a midfielder. Jacob Moda possesses so many qualities. He's very physical. When he came in under Graham Potter, he looked to be that sort of physical presence that we were missing. But since his injury, I think he shies away from the physical battle a little bit. So yeah, it's just about getting him back up to speed, and he can be a great player for us. He was before, but a 2-year injury is something massive to deal with.
Just to give you a little bit of hope for the future, though, Joe, because I'm an England fan, and I'm a Poland fan because I've got Polish heritage in me. Kasper Kozlowski will be a baller for you guys when he gets eventually up to speed and gets back in his team. Your recruitment is very good at, you're very clever with it. Like someone like Simon Adingra, who my mate mentioned to me at the start of the season in another conversation. I didn't even have a clue he was, and he's been sensational now, an AFCON winner. But I didn't know Hinshelwood was out. That kind of like him, Gross, João Pedro, and Gilmore were sensational at City Ground. I thought, especially Hinshelwood filling at the left back was really, really good. I was really impressed with him. But just going back to the Premier League, Fulham at the weekend, you lost 3-0. I watched the highlights, which is all I can go off. So you'll have to fill me in. But it looked like Evan Ferguson turned up in the wrong boots for the day, and Fulham just kind of punished you with the chances they had. What were your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, poor old Evan, he's just literally begging for a goal at the moment.
Well, that will come at the weekend, I take it.
I really hope so, obviously, for my sake. Evan Ferguson, people are starting to say, is he a flop? Is he, a flash in the pan? Did he just have that one purple patch and then we're not going to see the best of Evan Ferguson? But what I have to remember, and what a lot of other Brighton fans have to remember, is that he's only 19. He's a very young player, learning a lot still. And he burst onto the scene and set himself such an incredible ceiling for him to hit season in, season out. And when you do that at the age of 18, when he bursts onto the scene, that's a really hard task to follow that up. He started the season well, got a goal against Luton and a hat-trick against Newcastle. And then since then, I think got an injury, fell out of the team, and has really struggled to sort of hit the form again. And you can see how much he's needing a goal. That one chance where he could have just taken it past Leno and slot it into an open net, but he chips it past and it goes past the post, and you can just see the frustration on his face. It just wasn't it was one of those days where Fulham, were clinical, and we hardly created anything. And that midfield I talk about, we had Jan-Paul Van Hecke, who's a centre back, and Carlos Baliba in midfield, and it was an absolute shambles. So I expect Pascal Gross to come back into the midfield on Sunday, just to give a little bit more. I think maybe Pascal Gross and Carlos Baliba pairing. It's just about needing at least a midfielder in there. I don't know why he played a centre back. We had 4 centre backs on the pitch, and we couldn't defend, and it absolutely baffled me. A lot of question marks are around De Zerbi at the moment, sort of questioning whether is he ready for an elite job. And I think Brighton fans are saying that because we don't want him to go, and we're sort of not selling him to the public. But I think there's a lot of naivety when it comes to, when De Zerbi's under pressure with a lot of injuries, and having to pick a team that can go out and win a game when the sort of cards are against you. So it's just a matter of time to just see how that pans out and whether we can get some injuries back and mount some sort of comeback towards the end of the season. It's looking quite bleak at the moment, which isn't great.
That's a really strange take on a few things. I mean, the Evan Ferguson thing is strange. I completely understand where supporters are coming from. They get carried away when someone hits the ground running, especially at 18. He does not look it at all, and obviously 19 now. You kind of just have to kind of think back to like Harry Kane's like loan experience, where he's at like Leyton Orient and like Leicester and Norwich, and he was absolute garbage, and everyone's going, well, what's this kid do? Suddenly just starts banging in the goals. And then another strange take is like, it's looking bleak, but you're still right in the mix for European places again this season, which again I think is a really good season for Brighton. To say how many injuries you've had, like Estupinian's been injured for the majority of the season, so in and out, Lamptey in and out. You've mentioned Pedro, Matoma, just like so many players. Like I feel like there needs to be a bit of like perspective, a bit of a step back. I mean, if I was a Brighton fan, I'd be absolutely delighted still. I know it's hard because you're getting carried away. I completely understand it. Forest fans can be the exact same. So
I think for us it's those results where 4-0 against Luton away, 6-1 against Aston Villa away.
Surprising.
3-0 against Fulham, and I know Fulham are a good side on their day, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but these games where you expect us to turn up and give a little bit more and show that we are Brighton now and we are, a team to be reckoned with, and we've just sort of lost that edge. I think that's why maybe people are a little bit subdued at the moment in the Brighton camp. It's just that there's these really stupid mistakes. There's these really stupid performances where you just sort of question it. And when you look ahead at our fixture list, 2 games against Roma, you guys, we've got City, Liverpool, we've still got Arsenal, Villa, Man United, Chelsea to play. You think, if we do these performances against them lot, we're going to get our asses handed to us. I think, we look forward and we hope that we do well. We normally do play well when we play against teams that, want to come and play football. I think, as you say, perspective is everything. And we do have to take a step back, and, we're 9th, I think 4 points off of 6th. As you look at it like that, it's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, an incredibly hard run in. I know we touched on De Zerbi just now about whether Brighton fans think he's good enough to move on or anything, but is there still a lot of murmurs? Do you think he's still got his head in that job? Because obviously there's talks of him going X, Y, and Z, isn't there? Liverpool's job's going to be available. People think Man United's job's going to be available in the summer because of their new ownership, and Ten Hag completely a car crash at Old Trafford at the moment.
Yeah,
what's your thoughts on De Zerbi, and where do you see it coming towards the end of the season?
It's a really difficult one, because I always get worried when we don't look like we're going to achieve what would keep our star players or our star key staff around. You think, okay, we've got to play Roma in the Europa League. We more than likely will get knocked out by them, and then we've got to try and get Europe in the league again. And when you see the teams competing for Europe in the league, and I know it goes down to 8th place if we get all the qualifying stuff out of the way. So you sort of hope that we do achieve something so that they sort of stick around and think that there's a project there to chase. If we don't get Europe next season, I think from a De Zerbi perspective, it would be, okay, well, I can go and achieve something at this club because they're in Europe and they've got all of these. But I don't know if De Zerbi is that way. And loyalty is nothing in football at the moment, and hasn't been for a while. So I would be naive to sit here and say De Zerbi is different. De Zerbi will stay. De Zerbi will sign a new contract and finish what he started at Brighton. But we thought the same with Graham Potter. And then as soon as the Chelsea job came up, he was gone in a flash. So we hope that we can make that shift and keep our star players. Tony Bloom has come out and said that he wants to make that shift and keep our star players, and we're not under any financial pressure to sell in the summer. And there's a lot of teams that are going to be under a lot of financial pressure to sell. So it's going to be a buyer's market, and Brighton have got money. So I don't know if they sell that project to De Zerbi and say, look, if we don't achieve something this season, we can do it again next with better resources. It's just a case of wait and see. But I think that the jobs that De Zerbi's being linked with, if that offer landed on the table, I don't think he would reject them. You've got Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Liverpool, possibly Manchester United job could come up as well. So it's Chelsea job even.
Yeah,
dare I say? It's a sticky situation to be in. You probably know as a Forest fan, as a Brighton fan, that when these better opportunities come up for players and managers, they're offered at the next opportunity. So we have to remember who we are. We have to remember where we are. But hopefully, as I say, we can make that shift somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's now difficult. It's going to be difficult for clubs like ourselves and even like the bottom half of the table, because now there might be a potential 5 Champions League spots. It makes it even more difficult for you to keep your players away from the tables that are on like that the cusp. I know Spurs are a big club anyway, but they're like on the cusp. Villa now are involved. Then you've still got Chelsea and Man United who've just got the spending power. It's going to be mayhem, really. But then again, the prices will all drive up for everyone. So there's that in as well. But who's been like who is that star player that you kind of worried about losing like from this season? Because who's really like come to the front this season after you lost McAllister and Caicedo? Who's been that man that stepped up this season for you?
Yeah, I mean, Simon Adingra has been incredible for us this season. As you mentioned, he's gone and won AFCON. It's the second major trophy for a Brighton player in the space of a year. So it's an incredible feat for the club to be on that sort of international level and to be producing players that can go out and win stuff for their country, and then come back literally a week later and score a brace at. I know it's easy to do at Bramall Lane, but to have that mentality and come back and carry on such incredible form, he's been a revelation, and he's taken quite a similar route that Karim Matoma took. Was out on loan at USG, who our owner part owns. I'm not sure how much he part owns anymore, because obviously we were in the same European competition as them. But he was out on loan at them last season. Performed really well, came back, had a great preseason, and was that one of the first names on the team sheet for De Zerbi, because we had an injury to left back, Pervis Stupinian. Solly March had to go back there, and then Adingra had to then fill in at right wing, and he's not looked back since. Obviously, we're fearful that Karim Matoma might leave as well in the summer, but as I say, we're under no financial pressure to sell anymore. We had a massive sale this season, in Moises Caicedo, £150 million. I imagine if Liverpool win the title as well, the Alexis McAllister deal will go up to the £55 million that was agreed. £20 million add-on, I believe, for trophies. So he's already won 1 trophy, so I imagine that fee's already been bumped up. So yeah, we're in a good spot in terms of keeping personnel. And obviously João Pedro, who's burst onto the scene as well. £30 million from Watford was a huge fee to come in for. A lot of pressure around sort of being Brighton's record signing, because our record signings in the past have been quite shocking. So, yeah, it's been good for him I think he's on 18 goals already this season in all competitions. And that's an incredible amount for a Brighton player to be on. I know we're obviously in Europe as well. A lot of his goals have been penalties, but you still got to score them. So yeah, those are the players that I'm fearful of losing.
I mean, João Pedro scoring penalties. I mean, sometimes it's harder to score a penalty than a normal goal, because you're expected to score, really. So, no, fair play. I mean, I think with the Matoma thing, because of his injuries, it might put some clubs off for maybe half a season at least. So you might still keep hold of him. And like you say, you've not got the pressure of selling because you made so much money from Caicedo. And it always just surprised me that McAllister went for such cheap money, really, in all the grand scheme of things. But we'll go back to the game that happened early in the season where Brighton come out 3-2 winners. Probably the only controversial, well, actually, no, probably the second controversial decision we've had VAR give us, where Callum Hudson got a penalty for a ball that he was getting nowhere near, and then it resulted in obviously Lewis Dunk getting sent off for calling.
Yeah.
Who was the referee? It's always someone big, and they're always crap. I think it was Pawson or someone. He called him a knobhead or something. It was great.
I know that he was bald because he called him a bald knobhead.
Oh, it might have been. Oh, not Turney. It was the other one. I always forget. I forget all the names.
Yeah,
there should really be a hate list. There should be a hate list. But interesting. It was an entertaining game. Interesting game. I thought a game. Well, I wasn't surprised we didn't score against 10 men, because it's very rare we do. I think West Ham are the only team we have done score against 10 men. What did you make of the game back in earlier in the season? I thought João Pedro took his header extremely well, but we just allowed Pascal Gross all the time in the world for both goals he scored in the first half, I think it was.
Yeah, if you allow Pascal a chance to cross the ball, he will find someone in the middle. He's been, I think, one of the biggest chance creators in the Premier League for this time that he's been with us, and it's an absolute credit to him. And he's such an incredible player. Yeah, it was a mental game. I struggle to sort of recall it how the sort of scores went.
We went 1-0 up pretty early. Elanga scored, and then you guys scored
oh
two
yeah,
before half time.
yeah.
Made it 3-1, and then we made it 3-2.
That was a shocking goal to concede, that first one. It was just so. That's what we've been doing this season. Is we're so switched off at the start, and then teams just go one ahead. Like against Luton, they went one ahead and then scored 2 minutes later, and we were suddenly 2-0 down after 5 minutes. And we need to stop doing that. We have to start games in a way that we don't let teams concede, and that was one of the annoying ones this season. But yeah, I think it was a really good. I think we were in need of a win at that point, and for it to come in the way that it did, with 10 men, absolutely stupid thing for our captain to do. When you're relying on someone to keep a cool head. Lewis Dunk, when he came into the team to start with, he was that player that would get a red card for saying something stupid or a stupid challenge or 2 yellows, but he's matured as he's got older and obviously become our captain. So that was a sort of flash of 2014 Lewis Dunk that came out in him. Got himself sent off and made sure that we had a really, really tough job. Brighton never do it the easy way. There was a game against Spurs on the turn of the year. We went 4-1 up, and I was thinking, no problem, easy. And then Spurs scored again, 4-2. And then it was just wave after wave after wave of Spurs attack. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just want to relax for once. But yeah, we were lucky to come away with all 3 points at the City ground. I think a few of your fans had something to say about our celebrations after.
Yeah, I mean, it's all. I like the housery of football in that sense. Like that's when it's quite good. I mean, there's an incident at the weekend of Andy Robertson blowing kisses at Forest fans at the weekend, and I thought both is unnecessary in a game where there's a bit of disdain between the two clubs of history and whatnot, but it didn't really warrant Forest fans hurling abuse either and calling Liverpool cheats when it was the referee that the game. It doesn't matter. It's a whole bloody thing anyway. But I thought like Verbruggen had a great game in those dying like embers where Brighton are trying to sit it out. He made some really, really key saves. That's a point actually. I do want to ask you because obviously Forest have had 3 goalkeepers this season. Who is your number one? Like, who do you see as the number one? Or is it like a kind of a chop and change thing depending who you play? Because I think like Steele seems to be quite decent with his feet and Verbruggen's quite good at actually saving shots and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think our last 5 league wins have come with Bart Verbruggen in goal. I think that should tell you everything. We're growing quite frustrated as Brighton fans that there isn't that solidarity at the back. There's no sort of, a back two needs to trust their goalkeeper behind them. And when it's chopping and changing and you've got different instructions being barked at you from your goalkeeper, I can imagine it would be quite confusing. And I think I pin a lot of our conceded goals down to the fact that we do keep changing our goalkeepers. For me, if you held a gun to my head and I had to choose right now, it would be Bart Verbruggen as our number one. I think his ceiling is incredible. I think he has such a massive potential and is already a very, very capable Premier League goalkeeper. I get that he's learning off of Jason Steele, and Jason Steele did fantastic for us at the end of last season when Robert Sanchez threw his toys out the pram, came in and fired us to Europe or not fired us, saved us to Europe, and has done very well in a few games this season. But there's a few stupid errors coming in where you're seeing the Sunderland till I die Jason Steele come back a little bit, and I don't want to pin that on him. The abuse he got at Sunderland and everything like that was completely unnecessary. I think he's been a fantastic servant for Brighton and Hove Albion. He's been with us for sort of 4 or 5 years now, and has always been a number 3 or even number 4 goalkeeper. But he's stayed. He's been professional. He's bided his time, and he's experienced some of the best nights that this club has ever experienced. So I hold my hat to him, and I say thank you, Jason Steele. But I think from here on out, it's got to be Bart Verbruggen.
It's a similar contrast to Forest getting Matt Sells. It seemed like the back 2, whoever it may have been, or even back 4, I can include that, were quite reluctant to pass the ball back to Matt Turner, because I don't know if you've seen, but he's bloody awful with his feet. Matt Sells is 10 times better, but we're still conceding crap goals, to be honest, in my opinion. But let's just so the last time we met, we had Steve Cooper in charge. Now we've got Nuno Espirito Santo. What have you made of whatever you've seen of Forest since he's come in?
To be honest, I haven't actually watched that much of Forest, and I would be lying through my teeth if I said, I've been impressed or I've been disappointed, because I just haven't seen enough to make a full opinion. My full opinion will be made on Sunday afternoon when you shit house a 1-0 win against us or something.
I mean, I will absolutely take that to the hills. You can go through against Roma, just give us 3 points. We just need it so badly. But what have you made of Forest in general then? Like, if you've seen anything, like just your general opinion on us.
Yeah, I mean, you're a great club. You're a historic club. I think if you had to choose a team to stay in the league out of the teams at the bottom at the moment, it would be Nottingham Forest. From what I've heard, I've never been, but from what I've heard, it's a great away day, and we've had some really good memories there. There's been a couple of last-minute winners that we've experienced at your place. So yeah, for me, like, it's just a lovely, true, honest club, and that's exactly what you want.
Last time we didn't have Taiwo Awunye. That might make, I don't know if he'll play Sunday or not. He's been a bit hit and miss since he's come back from injury and fitness. But who do you kind of look at on the Forest team sheet and go, I'm not sure if I fancy coming up against him if he's on his heyday?
Yeah, Gibbs White is the one. Like, he always seems to turn up and cause us problems. And when he came through at Wolves, I thought, wow, he's a really good player. And then when Forest obviously landed him, I thought it was a great signing. And when he's on his day, he can pull your team up the pitch and get you a few goals, a couple of assists here and there. So yeah, for me, it's I hope he has a bad day, because if he does, I think we'll be okay.
Where do you think Forest will look to exploit Brighton and vice versa? I know you've talked about midfield being real, like, stretched, so I'm guessing you're going to probably go with that, I guess.
Yeah, if you can pack the midfield, you'll have our number, to be honest. Pack our midfield, play a low block, hit us on the counter, and that's exactly how you hurt Brighton. So if you've got Nuno's number, give him a ring and tell him to deploy those tactics. You'll have a fantastic day at the Amex.
Yeah. What have you lot been like from set pieces? Because that's all I fear about mostly. We don't get beat like in open play very often. It's always individual errors and set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, Dunkey's been scoring a few of late, and Pascal seems to have found out how to beat the first man from a corner, which is great. At the start of the season, our set pieces were absolutely atrocious, and we were calling for someone else to take the corners other than Pascal Gross, which is crazy, seeing that, in open play, Pascal can put the ball on the plate for a striker, easy peasy, but from a corner or a free kick, either hits the wall or the first man. It baffles me. Defending set pieces, not good. Not good at all. So
we're not great at attacking them, but anything, I'll take anything, Joe.
I tell you what, it's going to be one hell of a thing to watch if you're crap at attacking and we're crap at defending them. It's just going to be an absolute shit
like
show,
watching Sunday League. Well, it's on a Sunday as well, so
exactly.
that'll be.
So why not?
Yeah,
throw
that'd
it
be
back.
great. What what would you say? I know this is going to be so difficult to say, so I'll probably if you want to avoid it, I don't blame you. But let's say everyone comes unscathed from Roma, like no one's been, I don't know, destroyed by Lukaku or anything like that. What would your lineup prediction be for Sunday, and what would your score be as well?
Goodness me. All right, so it would be Verbruggen in goal because he normally likes to start the goalkeepers 2 at a time. So it go Steele, and then Verbruggen. So Verbruggen will start on Thursday and Sunday, and I imagine Steele would start the home leg next week. That goalkeeper headache is not one that I like. And then a back four, I would say Veltman at right back, Dunk and Van Hecker at centre back, Purvis, Stupinian. No, I'm not going to put Purvis in. He's been crap recently. I'm going to start Barco, our new South American wonder kid.
Yeah, I know Valentin
came on
Barco,
against Wolves, and he was, oh my gosh, what a player we've got on our hands.
Did you watch the Copa Libertadores final? Because he looked like the only player for Boca Juniors that actually had a clue how to kick a ball.
He is ridiculous. Like how he's just so fearless, and he's tiny, but he will win physical battles left, right, and centre. And he's not afraid to get stuck in. De Zerbi saying he's
South American.
Exactly.
a ginger South American. I never.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
We've we had one of those, Alexis McAllister, and he was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see more of him. So if he could get on from the start, that'd be great. Midfield, obviously Gilmore suspended, so I would like to see Gross and Baliba. If Gross can't play, Jakob Moda. And then in front of them, I would like to see Enciso on the left. No, Enciso on the right, Adingra on the left, Buonanotte in the 10, and then Danny Welbeck up front, I think.
Oh, Danny Welbeck. No Ferguson on the bench.
No Ferguson. Have him on the bench, see if he can come on if we're a couple of goals up and maybe get himself a goal or something like that and just get his confidence back. But yeah, for me, Danny Welbeck leads the line so well for us. And
I forgot Enciso's only just come back. I mean, missed him so much. And he burst onto the scene last year. Same with Buonanotte, really.
Yeah.
But what's your score prediction Sunday, Joe?
Oh, yeah. 2-1 Brighton.
Ooh. I mean, it's good. It all depends Thursday, doesn't it? It's such a big. I appreciate you coming on and trying to give us all an insight of what you can, because obviously not knowing what's going to happen Thursday, it's kind of this could all go out the window for Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if all of them get injured and we've got to play our under 12s or something. That'll be fun.
We might give us a slimmer of hope. Might give us a slimmer of hope in that case.
That's true.
Joe, thank you very much for coming on the show. If anyone wants to check out the Albion Obsessed Pod YouTube channel, where can they find it all?
Yeah, you just type in Albion Obsessed on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, wherever you want to follow us. Sorry, X, wherever you want to find us now. Yeah, come along. If you want to talk about Brighton, we're more than happy to have you.
All right. Nice one, Joe. Thank you very much. And we'll see you for the, I don't know, review on Sunday or a Monday. Who knows on Red Side of the Trent, but come on your Reds.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.